a bitter vengeance, a sweet redemption. Tension. Have you ever wondered what happens when the past and present collide in the most explosive way possible? Prepare yourself for a story of revenge, scandal, and a bittersweet redemption that will leave you breathless. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Rachel Miller never imagined she would see her ex-husband Andrew again, especially not under such extraordinary circumstances. The last time they spoke, they had signed their divorce papers, parting ways in a fog of heartbreak and resentment. Now, 2 years later, he was parading his stunning fiancée, Sophia Hayes, at a high-profile event, completely oblivious to the staggering secret that surrounded Rachel's new boyfriend, Julian Thorne. What Andrew didn't know was that Julian was no simple, humble philanthropist. He was a billionaire with astonishing power and influence, ready to elevate Rachel to a life of luxury she never dared to dream of. The rain beat against the windows of the small cafe in Soho as Rachel Miller sipped her cappuccino. It was an unusually cold afternoon in mid-June, and the cafe, Teresa's Corner, buzzed with customers seeking refuge from the downpour. Rachel, dressed in a simple navy blouse and jeans, felt a strange mix of tranquility and a persistent anxiety. A year ago, she couldn't have imagined sitting here, at peace with herself, after the emotional storm that had been her divorce. Her mind drifted back to the day she and Andrew had signed the final documents. There was anger, regret, and enough tears to fill an ocean. They had started their marriage as starry-eyed college sweethearts who believed love was enough to conquer the world. But over time, Andrew's ambition had soured into ruthless competition, and Rachel's dreams of a supportive partner had crumbled under his constant criticism. They argued about money, lifestyles, the future. Eventually, the cracks turned into chasms. An ear-splitting horn blared outside, pulling her from her thoughts. She checked her phone for messages. Julian Thorne, a man she had been dating for 2 months, had promised to join her after his meeting. They were supposed to go to a gallery event afterward, hosted by her dear friend, Jenny Roberts, a promising art curator. Rachel felt that old, self-protective voice inside her, reminding her not to expect too much. Yet Julian had never given her a reason to doubt him. He was kind, respectful, and strangely humble for a man whose gestures of generosity often left her speechless. At that exact moment, the bell on the cafe door tinkled. Rachel looked up, expecting to see Julian. Instead, her heart nearly stopped. Andrew Thompson walked in, shaking his umbrella. He hadn't changed much, still tall, self-assured, with the faintest hint of arrogance in the way he scanned the room. Her stomach clenched. An old ache flared. She considered hiding behind her coffee cup, but it was too late. He had seen her. "Rachel," he said, approaching her table with cautious curiosity. "Wow, long time no see." Andrew wore a charcoal suit that probably cost as much as a month's rent downtown. His hair, once youthful and rebellious, was now impeccably styled. He looked every bit the corporate success he had wanted to be. Andrew eyed the seat across from her. Without waiting for an invitation, he sat down, oblivious to the line of customers behind him. Typical Andrew. He always had to be the center of attention. "Yes, it has been a while," Rachel said, trying to keep her voice steady. Despite her attempts at calm, her hands trembled slightly, and she put her coffee cup back on its saucer to steady herself. It was surreal to face him again at such a random moment. She briefly wondered how life had treated him. For a moment, she remembered the vicious arguments that had escalated to their parting accusations about who contributed more financially, who was more supportive, who sacrificed more. She took a measured breath, determined not to let those memories ruin her newfound sense of self. "You look good," Andrew continued, I heard you moved back downtown. How have you been? He tried to smile, but it came out a little forced. They were no longer the same people who had once shared a home and a bed. I'm fine, Rachel replied. Just living one day at a time. And you? Busy as ever. Just met with a client nearby. He paused, drumming his fingers on the table. Look, I know things ended badly. Rachel braced herself for him to bring up the past, or to launch into some harsh criticism. Instead, he cleared his throat and picked up a napkin, wiping a non-existent spill from the table. To her dismay, Andrew might have had a slight pang of guilt. She could see it in his shifting eyes. But I hope you're doing okay, he finished. I am, she said softly. She wasn't sure if that was 100% true, or if she just wanted to believe it. I really am. It was then that the cafe door opened again, letting in a gust of wind and drizzle. Rachel's heart skipped a beat. Julian walked in, scanning the room, tall and elegant in a tailored navy blazer and matching pants. He saw Rachel, and a warm smile lit up his face. Andrew followed his gaze, confusion flickering in his eyes. "Rachel, hey!" Julian said, approaching with a certain quiet confidence. "Sorry I'm late. The meeting ran long." He put a gentle hand on her shoulder and leaned down to give her a soft kiss on the cheek. Andrew raised an eyebrow. "So this is..." Rachel felt a momentary twinge of awkwardness. "Andrew, this is Julian Thorne, my boyfriend. Julian, this is Andrew Thompson, my ex-husband." The tension that settled over the table was almost palpable. Julian's expression remained cordial. He extended a hand to Andrew, who shook it with a certain stiffness. "Pleasure to meet you," Julian said, his composure unwavering. "Likewise," Andrew offered. He sounded more polite than he looked, his eyes fixed on Julian, sizing him up as one might a competitor. "Well, I better be going. I have to go pick up Sophia soon." Rachel felt a sudden jolt at the name. Sophia. She vaguely remembered Andrew mentioning a coworker by that name during their last year of marriage, a coworker he seemed to admire excessively. Or maybe it was her insecurities talking. Either way, the mention of her replaced any sadness with a simmering irritation. Andrew was taken, apparently. She quickly composed herself to maintain a neutral expression. "Nice catching up, Rachel," Andrew continued. He nodded at Julian. "And it was a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Thorne. Maybe we'll cross paths again sometime." Julian gave a polite smile. "Perhaps. Take care." With that, Andrew exited the cafe, leaving behind a faint scent of expensive cologne and a whirlwind of unanswered questions. Julian pulled up a chair and sat down, placing a careful hand over Rachel's. "Are you okay?" he asked in a low voice. Rachel forced a smile, determined not to let the chance encounter unsettle her. "I'm fine," she murmured. "Just surprising. That's all." He squeezed her hand gently. "If he ever bothers you, or if you need space, just let me know. I can take care of..." "No, it's fine," she interrupted. "I'm over it. At least, I think so." She sighed, thinking of how Andrew's presence still made her chest feel tight. "Let's go to the gallery show. Jenny's expecting us." Julian nodded and stood, helping Rachel with her coat like a perfect gentleman. Stepping back out into the rainy street, Rachel realized Andrew had left her with a million conflicting thoughts. Little did she know, this casual meeting was only the beginning of an intricate web, about to unravel a web that would pit old resentments against new hopes and expose secrets so shocking that no one involved would be left unchanged. 2 days later, Rachel found herself in a sunlit corner of her apartment, leafing through old photo albums she'd shoved into a storage box after the divorce. Why had she chosen this exact moment to revisit old memories? She couldn't fully explain it. Perhaps seeing Andrew had triggered a wave of nostalgia, good, bad, and everything in between. Her phone rang. It was a text from Jenny Roberts. "Did you see the article in the New York Post about Andrew's upcoming engagement party?" "I just heard. They're going all out like full society pages big. Are you okay? Rachel frowned. She typed a quick response. I'm fine, just a little surprised. We ran into each other yesterday. Jenny responded with a barrage of astonished emojis, followed by, he's showing off Sophia big time. Apparently, she's from an influential family. Rumor has it they're throwing an insane event next month. If you need moral support, you know I'm here. Rachel exhaled deeply. So that was it. Andrew, always obsessed with status, was announcing his new engagement with fanfare. Deep inside, a flicker of hurt sparked. They had once talked about a modest vow renewal when they reached their 10th anniversary, just a private event with close friends. Now, that dream was pointless, overshadowed by his grand new spectacle. Looking back at the photos, she found one from their college days. Andrew, with his tousled hair and sparkling eyes, hugging her tightly in front of their campus dorm. The memory of that hopeful young couple squeezed her chest. How had everything gone so horribly wrong? She put the photo aside, determined not to let her emotions get the better of her. Her life had changed since the divorce. She had her own architectural studio, Miller Designs, ironically keeping the surname because her business had been registered under that name before the split. She had built a modest but growing clientele, and then there was Julian, who had entered her life like a breath of fresh air. She thought of Julian's warm smile and his gentle manner. They had met at a charity gala Jenny had invited her to months ago. He had been there discreetly. Introduced as a philanthropic donor to various social causes, they had hit it off, discussing art, architecture, and travel. She had only gleaned the barest hints about his true wealth, an inheritance from his late grandfather, some partial ownership in a tech conglomerate, because Julian rarely talked about finances. When he asked her out, she hesitated, unsure if she was ready. But something about Julian inspired trust. They had been quietly building a relationship ever since. Her phone buzzed again, snapping her out of her reverie. This time it was a text from Julian himself. Early dinner tonight? Or I can swing by your studio and we can grab a bite after. Rachel smiled at the screen. A sense of gratitude washed over her. She sent a reply. Dinner sounds perfect. I'm about to head to the studio for a few hours, but I'll be free by 6. See you then. She returned the photo albums to their dusty box and stowed them in a closet, wishing she could do the same with the emotional baggage they carried. Andrew and Sophia's grand engagement party would undoubtedly become the talk of the town. Rachel just had to get on with her own life, reminding herself that the past was the past. However, deep down, she couldn't shake a strange feeling that her paths with Andrew weren't quite done crossing, and that the ex-husband she thought she'd left behind might come crashing back into her life, bringing trouble with him. The bell over the elegant door of the French bistro tinkled as Julian guided Rachel inside, a hand lightly resting on the small of her back. The Monarch was an upscale spot on the Upper East Side, famous for its layered soufflé and impeccable wine list. Soft jazz music and a warm glow from vintage chandeliers welcomed them. The maitre d' recognized Julian immediately and led them to a private table in a corner, away from prying eyes. Rachel settled into her seat, scanning the gleaming silver and pristine white tablecloths. She noticed other couples at nearby tables, some of them glancing in Julian's direction, as if they recognized him, or at least suspected he was someone important. It was something she'd become used to. Whenever they went out, there always seemed to be a hint of speculation in people's gazes. Julian handled it with polite indifference, never revealing more than he had to. I took the liberty of ordering a bottle of your favorite red, Julian said, his smile illuminating his face. I thought we could celebrate your new design contract. Rachel's lips curved upward. Earlier that day, she had signed a major contract with a boutique hotel chain, something that could catapult her architectural studio to the next level. They had found her work on social media and reached out after seeing her portfolio. "That's so thoughtful," she said. "I still can't believe they chose me." Julian reached across the table and took her hand. "You deserve every success. Congratulations." A sommelier approached with the wine, pouring each of them a glass. They toasted in silence, the soft clink of the glass echoing in the intimate space. Rachel took a sip, the velvety texture of the wine warming her throat. They exchanged news about their day. Julian mentioned an upcoming trip to London for a philanthropic conference, carefully skirting too many details of his financial affairs. Rachel talked excitedly about the upcoming designs she was conceptualizing for the hotel chain. Halfway through the meal, a sumptuous cocoa vin for her and pan-seared salmon for him, Julian cleared his throat. "I've been thinking," he began, looking at his plate as if rehearsing his words, "about introducing you to some of my circle. You know, friends, business associates. I just want them to know about the incredible woman I'm with." Rachel paused, her fork halfway to her mouth. "Really?" she asked, her heart fluttering. They had been dating for a couple of months, but she still felt they were in a delicate stage. Meeting people in his circle sounded potentially overwhelming, given Julian's circle was probably filled with movers and shakers. He nodded, putting down his napkin. "I don't want to pressure you into anything, but there's a fundraiser next week. I'd love for you to be on my arm, if you're comfortable with that." A whirlwind of emotions hit her. Excitement, curiosity, a little bit of fear. "Of course," she responded softly. "I'd be honored." Julian's face lit up. He took her hand again, gently rubbing his thumb over her knuckles. "Thank you. I'm so happy to have you in my life, Rachel." They lingered over dessert, an exquisite flourless chocolate torte, and talked of simpler things. Favorite books, childhood memories, future travel plans. Rachel found herself floating in the warmth of possibility, letting go of the dark corners of her past. Andrew's name hovered unspoken between them, but she felt no need to mention it that night. This was her time with Julian, a space free of regrets. By the time they finished, the bistro was closing down. They stepped out into the cool night. "I'll take you home," Julian said, leading her to a sleek black sedan waiting at the curb. She remembered the first time he'd showed up with a driver. She had insisted on taking a cab to meet him because it felt too extravagant to be chauffeured. Over time, she had grown more comfortable, though she still insisted on paying her share whenever possible. Inside the car, Julian's arm wrapped around her shoulders, and she leaned into him, relaxed. She closed her eyes, letting the glow of the streetlights pass by the windows as they drove through the city. The hum of the engine lulled her into a peaceful daze. In that moment, she dared to believe her life could move forward, unburdened by the heartache that had once consumed her. The morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Rachel's architectural studio. She was sitting at her drafting table, carefully finalizing sketches for the boutique hotel project. The pencil lines became elegant curves and arches, capturing her vision for a modern yet inviting interior. Her desk phone rang, startling her from her zone of concentration. "Rachel Miller, Miller Designs," she answered, tucking the pencil behind her ear. "Rachel, it's me, Jenny," her friend's excited voice said. "You're not going to believe this. I just heard from a colleague at the New York Post that Andrew and Sophia are throwing an engagement party at the plaza next week. And get this, apparently they're inviting everyone from your old social circle. Friends, acquaintances, even some of your mutual clients." Rachel's stomach dropped. "Why on earth would they invite me then?" "Oh, that's the thing. Rumor has it Andrew doesn't want you there, but Sophia apparently insisted. She told the Post she wants a harmonious future, or maybe she's just trying to show off." Jenny paused. "I know you probably don't care anymore, but I thought it might be important for you to know, just in case an invitation shows up." Rachel exhaled slowly. She hadn't thought Andrew's engagement would become so public, but given his thirst for social status, it wasn't surprising. "Thanks for the heads up," Rachel said. "If I get an invite, I'll think very carefully before responding." "Just remember you don't owe them anything," Jenny added. "How's Julian, by the way?" At the mention of Julian, Rachel's lips curved. "He's good. He wants to introduce me to his circle at a fancy fundraiser. Actually, that's next week, too. I have a feeling my schedule is about to get hectic." Jenny laughed. "Better you than me. I'm thrilled for you, though. If you need a +1 to Andrew's fiasco or a bodyguard, I'm here." They hung up, and Rachel stared at the phone for a moment. She was certain Andrew's engagement party would be a glittering spectacle of high society and corporate elites. Sophia Hayes, Rachel now remembered, came from a wealthy family in Greenwich, Connecticut. She was rumored to be a shrewd corporate lawyer. Andrew likely saw her as a strategic, as well as a romantic partner. That afternoon, a courier brought a large, cream-colored envelope with a gold leaf emboss. Rachel felt her pulse quicken. The return address read, "Mr. Andrew Thompson and Ms. Sophia Hayes." She sighed. So the rumor was true. She had really been invited. Inside, the invitation was thick and glossy, detailing the upcoming soiree at the Plaza Hotel. Rachel folded it back into the envelope, unsure whether to throw it away or keep it. Part of her thought it was a power play by Sophia, an attempt to appear gracious or rub Rachel's new status in her face. Later that night, as she relaxed at home, Rachel pondered the invitation. She would share it with Julian and see what he thought. Maybe they could skip it entirely. She had no desire to watch Andrew show off his fiancée. On the other hand, a small voice inside her whispered that it might be cathartic to walk in with her own date, someone who truly valued her, and show them she wasn't the broken woman Andrew had left behind. She pulled out her phone and called Julian. He answered on the second ring. "Rachel, hey, I was just thinking about you." "Well, I just got something interesting," Rachel said, her voice tinged with irony. "An invitation to Andrew's engagement party." Julian paused. "How do you feel about it?" She curled up on her sofa, hugging a cushion. "Conflicted. Part of me doesn't want to go, but another part of me, I'm curious. Maybe I want closure, or maybe I just want to show that I'm doing well. Besides, Sophia specifically invited me. It feels like a trap, but maybe I'm overthinking it." Julian's tone was gentle. "I'll support whatever you decide. If you want me by your side, just say the word. If you don't want to go, we can do something else, somewhere far away from that spectacle." Rachel's tension eased at his understanding. "I'll think about it," she said. "In the meantime, we still have your fundraiser next week. I'll focus on that for now." Little did Rachel know that the upcoming events would collide in ways she couldn't possibly predict. The worlds of Andrew, Sophia, and Julian were on a collision course, and when they finally met, the consequences would be unlike anything Rachel had ever experienced. What do you think Rachel should do? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. The next week arrived in a whirlwind of nerves and excitement. Rachel stood in front of the mirror in Julian's penthouse, a modern, expansive space with views of Central Park. She was wearing an elegant emerald green evening gown that highlighted her figure. Jenny had come over earlier to help her style her hair in a loose bun. Now, her reflection exuded a quiet confidence she wasn't entirely sure she felt. Julian, adjusting his cufflinks, walked up to her. "You look stunning," he murmured, giving her a soft kiss on the temple. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Rachel said, managing a small smile. "I still don't know who will be there." Julian hesitated a moment. "It'll be a mix of philanthropists, investors, and some celebrities who champion various causes. These events can be a bit overwhelming, so if at any point you want to leave, just let me know." They arrived at the grand ballroom of the Laurelwood Hotel, greeted by the flash of cameras and a crowd of wealthy donors spilling out of sleek cars. Rachel stayed close to Julian, feeling a rush of relief when they finally passed through the entrance and into the elegantly decorated ballroom. Chandeliers glittered overhead, and waiters circulated with glasses of champagne. Almost immediately, a striking woman with fiery red hair bustled over. "Julian, darling," she cooed, giving him a kiss on both cheeks. "So good to see you. And who is this stunning lady?" Julian placed a hand on Rachel's back. "Monica, this is Rachel Miller, my girlfriend. Rachel, this is Monica Herrera, a board member of the Global Arts Foundation." Monica's eyes lit up. "A pleasure to meet you, my dear. Julian tells me you're an architect. How wonderful. We must talk about our new cultural center we're designing in Brooklyn." They exchanged pleasantries. Rachel felt slightly dazed by Monica's enthusiasm. As more people approached, the conversations followed a similar pattern. Friendly greetings, mild curiosity about Rachel's background, then a pivot to philanthropic or business interests. She quickly realized that many of these people moved in orbits of unimaginable wealth, forging alliances through donations and social events. Midway through the night, she excused herself to admire an exhibit showcasing the foundation's achievements, photos of hospitals built in rural regions, art scholarships awarded, and environmental restoration projects. She was silently reading a plaque about a conservation effort in Africa when a voice startled her from behind. "Rachel Miller, is that you?" The voice was male, vaguely familiar. She turned to see Diego Ruiz, an old acquaintance of Andrew's, and a man Andrew had once discussed real estate projects with. Diego's eyes widened in recognition. "I can hardly believe it. How are you?" Rachel forced a polite smile. "I'm doing well, Diego. I didn't expect to see you here." "I'm a sponsor," he replied, swirling the wine in his glass. "Always good for business to donate to worthy causes, right?" He gave a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm actually at a table with Andrew Thompson at the upcoming engagement event. Are you planning to attend?" Rachel felt her posture stiffen. "I'm still deciding," she said cautiously. Diego let out a low chuckle. "You should go. Andrew has been bragging non-stop about his new fiancée. Something about her father's connections in politics. He's definitely on a roll. You might want to see what you're missing." A flash of annoyance shot through her. "Trust me, I'm not missing anything. Besides, I'm here with someone else," she said, looking around for Julian. Hoping to end this awkward conversation, Diego took the hint. "All right, I'll let you go. Take care, Rachel." He walked away, wine glass in hand, leaving her with a bitter taste of the past. She exhaled, leaning against the exhibit. Suddenly, a warm palm touched her shoulder. She turned to see Julian, concern in his gaze. "Everything okay?" She forced a smile. "Yes, just someone from my past life. Let's go. Let's get some air." He nodded, guiding her to a terrace overlooking the city skyline. The cool evening air brushed against her cheeks. She closed her eyes, feeling Julian's presence behind her. "Rachel," he said in a low voice, "I know running into people from your past can bring up bad memories, but I hope you know I'm here for you." She turned to face him, tears threatening to form. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm okay. It's just, my ex-husband's engagement party is in a few days, and I guess I'm still dealing with how he used to undermine me. I don't want to be that woman who can't let go." Julian brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You're not that woman. But if you decide you need to go to that engagement event to get closure, I'll go with you." A small spark of gratitude ignited in her chest. "I appreciate that," she said, leaning in to rest her head on his shoulder. High above the city, under the glow of the skyscrapers, Rachel began to feel the event swirling in a direction she couldn't fully predict. Something told her that Andrew's lavish celebration would be more than just an engagement party. Secrets were brewing, some of which could change everything she believed about her past and her future. The Plaza Hotel in New York City glowed with opulence as Rachel arrived on Julian's arm. She had decided, after much thought, that attending Andrew's engagement party was a necessary step to fully close the chapter on her old marriage. Julian, in a sleek black tuxedo, was a fortress of calm beside her. Rachel wore a midnight blue gown that contrasted beautifully with her dark hair, and she felt a surge of confidence she wished she'd had years ago. A red carpet lined the entrance, where paparazzi snapped photos of notable guests, many of them CEOs, politicians, and socialites. Upon entering, a lavish floral arrangement dominated the lobby, and classical music drifted from a string quartet in the ballroom. Waiters glided through the crowd, carrying trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Within minutes, Andrew appeared. He looked impeccable in a tailored suit, his expression tinged with surprise at seeing Rachel and Julian. Andrew's fiancée, Sophia, was at his side, an ethereal figure in a glittering silver gown, her reddish hair styled in a chic bun. Sophia's eyes flickered with interest as she recognized Rachel. Rachel greeted Sophia with a cordial smile, extending a hand. "I'm so glad you could make it. Andrew mentioned he ran into you not long ago." Rachel shook her hand, noticing the enormous diamond on Sophia's engagement ring. She put on her own polite smile. "Thank you for the invitation." Andrew cleared his throat. "Julian," he said, giving a nod of recognition. "A pleasure to see you again," Julian responded with quiet courtesy. "Likewise. Congratulations on your engagement." A somewhat awkward pause followed, broken when Sophia touched Andrew's arm and excused them to greet other guests. Rachel exhaled. She shot Julian a look of gratitude. "Well, that wasn't so bad," she whispered, though her pulse was still racing. They moved further into the ballroom, sampling canapés and greeting a few acquaintances. Jenny was there with her boyfriend, waving Rachel over to a corner. They chatted for a bit, Jenny sliding in witty commentary on Andrew's pretentious decor choices. Still, an undercurrent of tension wove its way throughout the night. As they watched from a distance, Andrew and Sophia commanded the crowd. Sophia appeared perfectly serene, a glimmer of sophistication in every gesture. Andrew, for his part, looked proud, almost smug. He introduced Sophia to key figures in the room. It was a spectacle of social maneuvering that made Rachel's head spin. Midway through the night, a hush fell over the ballroom. Andrew tapped a microphone. "Good evening, everyone," he said, his voice echoing. "Sophia and I want to thank you for joining us to celebrate our engagement. We're thrilled to share our happiness with you all." Polite applause rippled through the room. Sophia took the microphone with a graceful smile. "I couldn't be more grateful to have Andrew by my side. We look forward to many more milestones together, and we're so touched to have our friends and family supporting us tonight." "Thank you." Another round of applause. Andrew handed the microphone over to the band, which started an upbeat tune. People resumed their conversations as waiters delivered fresh champagne. Julian turned to Rachel. "You've handled yourself like a queen," he whispered. She let out a sigh she didn't realize she'd been holding. "I think this is enough to get closure for me. Maybe we can leave soon." Just then, from behind them, a voice sneered. "Leaving so soon? You haven't even congratulated the happy couple properly." It was Andrew's mother, Mrs. Thompson, a woman with a penchant for pearls and disapproval. She had always liked Rachel at first, until the divorce, when she had apparently decided Rachel was to blame. "Hello, Mrs. Thompson," Rachel said, keeping her tone even. Mrs. Thompson looked Julian up and down. "And who is this gentleman?" Before Rachel could speak, Julian smiled politely. "My name is Julian Thorne, ma'am. I'm here with Rachel." Mrs. Thompson's gaze narrowed, as if she were calculating net worth by sight. "You look familiar. Have we met before?" Julian's calm exterior didn't betray any discomfort. "I'm not sure," he said in a measured voice. "Perhaps at a charity gala?" "Must be," Mrs. Thompson sniffed, turning her attention back to Rachel. "I suppose it's good that you've moved on. even if some of us wonder if you'll ever truly appreciate what Andrew brought to your life." Julian's jaw tightened subtly, but he said nothing, allowing Rachel to respond. She refused to shrink in the face of Mrs. Thompson's condescension. "With all due respect, I don't think that's any of your business anymore. I wish Andrew and Sophia all the best." Mrs. Thompson's lips thinned. "Well, enter the party." She turned and walked away, leaving a cloud of tension in her wake. Julian placed a supportive hand on Rachel's back. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Rachel said in a low voice. "Let's step outside for a moment." They strolled onto a small terrace, overlooking the city lights. The music and hubbub from inside softened. Rachel finally let out a long sigh, releasing the built-up tension. "That woman always made me feel inadequate." Julian rubbed her shoulder gently. "You're far from inadequate. I'm proud of you for holding your ground." A gust of wind ruffled Rachel's hair. She turned to Julian, about to thank him again, when a whirlwind of voices from inside the ballroom caught their attention. They exchanged curious glances and walked back inside, to see Andrew at the microphone once more, Sophia at his side. But this time they looked flustered. "Please, everyone, stay calm!" Andrew's voice boomed over the speakers. The crowd looked uneasy. Rachel saw a burly security guard pushing his way through the guests, heading in their direction. Alarmed, she wondered what was happening. "Excuse me, Mr. Thorne," the guard said, his eyes shifting between Julian and Andrew on the stage. "Would you come with me, please?" Rachel's heart sank. She grabbed Julian's arm. "What's going on?" The guard looked uncomfortable. "We received a tip that a certain guest might be here under false pretenses." A hush fell over the room as guests turned to watch the commotion. Andrew took the microphone again, his voice tight. "Julian Thorne, we need to verify your credentials. We can't have just anyone crashing this event." A wave of disbelief washed over Rachel. She shot a look at Andrew. "You indirectly invited us, yet you still—" Sophia moved to the microphone, her nervous gaze shifting between Andrew and Julian. "Look, Andrew, this doesn't have to be a scene." Julian held up his hands calmly. "It's okay," he said, addressing the guard. "I can clarify who I am." He turned, scanning the crowd. "But I would like to know who is behind this tip." People were whispering. Rumors were flying. Rachel stared at Andrew, wondering if he had orchestrated this humiliation. Andrew, for his part, looked bewildered. Mrs. Thompson, standing nearby, looked smug. Suddenly, a well-dressed older man in the corner, someone Rachel recognized as Sophia's father, Mr. Hayes, spoke up. "I made the call," he said in a clipped tone. He strode forward, glaring at Julian. "I've heard rumors about you, Mr. Thorne. Rumors that you claim to be wealthy, philanthropic. But no one can pinpoint the source of your fortune. We can't have just anyone in these circles." Rachel felt indignation boil in her veins. "He's not just anyone. He's—" Julian gently squeezed her hand, signaling her to remain calm. He faced Mr. Hayes with remarkable composure. "Sir, you're right that I typically keep a low profile about my finances. But let me assure you that I am more than capable of attending this event. If you would like, we can step aside and verify whatever credentials you need." A tense standoff ensued. Andrew cleared his throat, uncertain. Sophia looked mortified by her father's outburst. The guard stood in the air, waiting for instructions. Julian calmly reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. He handed it to the guard and said, "If you call this number, my offices can confirm my identity. I am a principal investor in Lumina Tech, among other companies." A wave of recognition swept through the crowd. Lumina Tech was a major name in the tech sector. Mr. Hayes paled, snatching the card from the guard to read it. Andrew's eyes flickered with confusion and perhaps envy. Sophia's father exhaled, obviously realizing he had made a grave mistake in publicly confronting Julian. The guard spoke softly into his earpiece for a moment. Then he nodded. "Confirmed, sir. My apologies, Mr. Thorne." He stepped aside, leaving Julian unimpeded. An awkward silence filled the room. Julian turned to Andrew and Sophia, keeping his voice serene. "Congratulations again on your engagement. I think we'll be leaving now." With that, he took Rachel's arm, guiding her toward the exit. Jenny followed them, muttering curses for what they'd just endured. Outside, in the lobby, Rachel's emotions erupted. "I can't believe they tried to kick you out like you were a fraud." She blinked back angry tears. Julian's expression softened. "I've dealt with worse. Let's go home." And as they stepped out into the night, one undeniable fact hardened in Rachel's mind. Andrew and Sophia had not only tried to embarrass her, but Julian as well. There was no turning back now, and the next encounter, she felt certain, would bring even more explosive revelations. Can you imagine being in this situation? How would you handle a public confrontation like that? The morning after the disastrous engagement party, social media was ablaze with gossip. The news of the confrontation at the plaza had spread like wildfire. Several tabloids and society blogs ran headlines like "Billionaire investor mistaken for party crasher" and "Fiancée's father sparks confrontation at lavish engagement." Rachel woke up to texts from Jenny gleefully detailing the fiasco and its online fallout. Even Andrew had tried to call her the night before, leaving a voicemail she ignored. She wasn't interested in his excuses, but curiosity prompted her to listen. His voice sounded flustered. "Rachel, hey. I'm sorry about what happened last night. I had no idea Sophia's father would react like that. Look, maybe we can talk soon. Clear the air. Let me know." She deleted the message. Annoyance mixed with a strange satisfaction. She took comfort in the fact that Julian's identity had finally come to light. He was no longer the quiet man in the shadows, but a formidable figure who commanded respect in elite circles. Julian, for his part, responded to the drama with his characteristic calm. That morning, he invited Rachel over to his penthouse for breakfast. Over coffee and pastries, he broke down the whole fiasco with mild amusement. "I guess the Hayes family has this idea that I'm a grifter who's worked his way into high society. It's not the first time someone has doubted my intentions." Rachel frowned over the rim of her cup. "It's not fair. You have to prove yourself every time. You've done so much good with your philanthropic work." He shrugged. "Money complicates relationships. People see fortune, and either they want something from me, or they suspect I have some hidden agenda." Reaching across the small coffee table in his living room, he brushed his thumb over her hand. "It's one of the reasons I don't talk about it much, but I don't want you to be caught in the crossfire either." Rachel shook her head, intertwining her fingers with his. "I'm proud of who you are, Julian. If anyone has a problem with it, that's their problem." A tenderness flickered in his eyes, and he leaned in to give her a soft kiss on her forehead. Just then, his phone vibrated. He looked at it, his brows furrowed. "Everything okay?" Rachel asked. He sighed. "It's an urgent matter with one of my companies. Something about an acquisition deal. I might have to fly out to San Francisco tomorrow." Rachel put down her coffee, worry creeping in. "For how long? A couple of days, maybe a week? I'm not sure yet." He exhaled. "I'm sorry for the timing. I hate leaving right after all this drama." She offered him a reassuring smile. "Don't worry. Take care of your business. I'll be fine." They spent the day together, strolling through the park and visiting a local art exhibit, choosing to ignore the media frenzy surrounding them. Rachel felt a growing sense of security in Julian's presence, as if together they could weather any storm. Under her calm, however, she harbored a suspicion that Andrew would not let this incident lie. He thrived on control and hated to appear inferior or outshined. Now that Julian's wealth was public knowledge, Rachel suspected Andrew would feel threatened. And where Andrew felt threatened, trouble often followed. Her intuition was not wrong. That very afternoon, just as she was about to head back to her apartment, her phone vibrated with another call from an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Rachel, it's Sophia." The voice was trembling with a forced composure. "Can we meet? I need to talk to you about Andrew." Rachel's pulse quickened. "Sophia, why would you call?" She half expected an ambush or a scolding for upstaging the engagement party. Yet curiosity prompted her to agree. They decided to meet at a quiet tea house the next day. As Rachel hung up, she felt a knot of unease in her stomach. Sophia's tone hadn't been one of gloating or confrontation. It had sounded almost desperate. Perhaps there were cracks in the perfect facade of Andrew and Sophia's engagement, and if so, what explosive secrets might come to light. The next day, a gray sky threatened rain as Rachel slid into a corner booth at the tea house, the Secret Garden, in the West Village. The cozy little shop was known for its extensive selection of loose-leaf teas and quiet atmosphere. Sophia arrived shortly after, in a simple black coat over a cream blouse, her posture rigid with tension. "Thank you for meeting with me," Sophia said in a low voice, sitting across from Rachel. Her hands trembled slightly as she took off her coat. Rachel scrutinized Sophia's face, noticing slight dark circles under her eyes. She didn't look like the radiant fiancée from the engagement party. "You're welcome," Rachel replied. "What's going on?" A waiter approached, and Sophia ordered chamomile tea while Rachel ordered Earl Grey. They waited in an uncomfortable silence until the waiter left. Sophia cleared her throat. "I know this might sound strange, but I don't have many people I can talk to about Andrew. He talks very little about you, but I did some research. I know how your marriage ended, abruptly and painfully." Rachel's stomach tightened. "What do you want to know?" Sophia laced her fingers together. "Is he always so controlling? I've seen glimpses, like last night, how he handled the fiasco with your boyfriend. He was furious, not because his father-in-law embarrassed Julian, but because he felt outshone. We had a huge fight afterward." She swallowed, looking down at her hands. "I have money and connections, but Andrew wants me for more than just that. He wants me to help him climb." Rachel felt a pang of empathy. Despite her resentments, she knew how disarming Andrew's charm could be, how easy it was to be swept up in his grand dreams. "Then why contact me?" Rachel asked softly. Sophia hesitated, looking around the tea house as if fearing eavesdroppers. "Because I'm not sure I can go through with this engagement, and I need to know if Andrew has done anything questionable in the past, financially or otherwise. My father is pushing for the wedding, but I'm scared." Rachel's thoughts went to the arguments about money in her marriage. Andrew had once suggested they use her personal savings to fund a risky venture. When she refused, he had called her short-sighted and unsupportive. But did he do anything illegal? Not that she knew of. "I can't say he ever broke the law," Rachel admitted. "He just manipulates situations to his advantage, often at someone else's expense." Sophia exhaled as if deflating. "I see," she murmured. Our teas arrived, and she stirred hers distractedly. "He's pressuring me to sign a prenup that heavily favors him, something about future earnings based on my father's investments." Rachel's eyes widened. "That's a huge red flag." "I know," Sophia said, tears threatening to spill. "He wants me to sign before we set a wedding date. My father sees it as standard business, but I'm not comfortable. And last night, the way he ranted about Julian, it made me realize I don't even know this man I'm engaged to." A wave of sympathy washed over Rachel. Despite her anger at Andrew, she couldn't deny that Sophia was caught in a toxic dynamic. "You have every right to be cautious," Rachel said softly. "Listen, if you need someone to talk to or a place to clear your head, you can call me. I'm not your enemy. Andrew is my past." Sophia inclined her head. "Thank you, I appreciate that." They drank their tea in thoughtful silence. After a few minutes, Sophia spoke again. I'm planning to confront Andrew about postponing the wedding until I'm confident about everything. I'm not sure how he'll react. Rachel remembered Andrew's explosive temper when he was challenged. Whatever you decide, be careful. Andrew can be vindictive if he feels betrayed. Keep your support system close, like your dad. Sophia nodded, holding back tears. I will. And Rachel, I'm sorry about how my father treated you and Julian. He thinks everyone is after our money, but he was wrong. Rachel smiled softly. Apology accepted. They said their goodbyes outside the tea house, the clouds overhead threatening a downpour. As Sophia walked away, her shoulders hunched against the wind, Rachel felt a surge of complicated emotions. Pity for Sophia, disgust for Andrew, and a glimmer of relief that she had escaped that life. However, she also felt that this conversation would have repercussions. Andrew, feeling cornered, was capable of lashing out in dangerous ways. And Sophia, if she chose to defy him, might expose a side of Andrew that Rachel knew all too well. The side that never forgave or forgot perceived slights. A storm was brewing, one that could change everyone's lives. Rachel woke up to a flurry of frantic messages from her best friend Jenny. With blurry eyes, she switched on the TV to a breaking news segment. Andrew Thompson, under investigation for fraud. Just days after his lavish engagement party, he was the target of a high-profile investigation into alleged financial crimes. Reporters claimed he had falsified records in a corporate merger, exploiting his fiancée's family connections for illegal gain. Rachel felt a mix of emotions: shock, vindication, and a strange residual sadness for someone she had once loved. Her phone rang again, and Jenny breathlessly gave her the details. Sophia's father, Mr. Hayes, had apparently pulled all his support, and rumors suggested Sophia herself had handed over incriminating evidence to investigators. Andrew, facing potential arrest, was desperate and alone. As Rachel was pondering the gossip, an incoming call from an unknown number startled her. She answered, bracing herself for whatever was to come. "Rachel!" Andrew's unmistakable voice came through, sounding hoarse. "I have no other options. They've frozen my accounts, and Sophia is gone. You have to help me." His words tumbled out in a panicked rush. She could practically hear him pacing, fury mixed with disbelief. "Andrew," she said dryly, "I am no longer your wife, and your problems are not mine. If you falsified documents or cheated investors, that's your responsibility." He gave a sharp, broken laugh. "Everyone thinks they know best. All these high society people only care about one thing: winning. I played by their rules, and now I'm the villain. Even you are abandoning me." His tone turned accusatory. "You realize Julian and his billions won't always be there to clean up your messes." Rachel bristled, but kept her voice firm. "My life is no longer tied to yours. Don't call me again." She hung up abruptly, leaving her shaken, but strangely liberated. In that moment, she realized Andrew's downfall brought her a definitive closure. She felt no lingering responsibility. It was simply a cautionary tale about unchecked ambition, and she was done carrying the weight of his mistakes. 2 days later, Rachel's boyfriend, Julian Thorne, returned from his business trip in San Francisco. The moment she saw him step out of the elevator in his penthouse, relief washed over her. Dropping her purse, she wrapped him in a fierce hug. He stroked her hair, murmuring how much he had missed her, before she led him to the sofa. Julian began softly. "While you were gone, Andrew's entire world fell apart. He's under investigation. Sophia broke off the engagement, and he's basically begging me for help. He called me directly." She nodded. "He wants money for a good lawyer. I refused. It felt cruel, but I couldn't let him drag me back into his chaos." Julian exhaled, his relief evident. "I'm proud of you for setting boundaries. If you ever feel threatened, I'll do whatever it takes to protect you." They spent the next few hours catching up, discussing the whirlwind of legal drama and media coverage. Even the tabloids took great interest, linking Julian's quiet power to Andrew's spectacular ruin. Rachel hated the gossip, but Julian assured her such rumors would fade. That evening, they attended a charity art auction in support of local artists. Upon entering the gallery, photographers snapped pictures of Julian, now fully recognized as one of the city's most generous philanthropists. Rachel tensed momentarily at the attention, but he leaned in, whispering, "Relax, we're here for a good cause." Bolstered by his warmth, she browsed the various works of art, eventually falling in love with a vibrant modern piece. Julian outbid everyone else, gifting Rachel the painting with a discreetly triumphant smile. Afterward, they hosted a small gathering with close friends at Julian's penthouse to celebrate both Rachel's new contract with a boutique hotel chain and the addition of the striking piece of art to her design portfolio. Jenny arrived, hugging Rachel and animatedly recounting the latest on Andrew's investigation, from canceled contracts to indignant investors. While a part of Rachel felt a pang of pity, she couldn't deny a sense of affirmation that she had done the right thing by leaving him. Later that night, once the guests had left, Rachel and Julian sat alone in the dimly lit living room. The city lights twinkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting on the newly hung painting. With a glass of wine in her hand, Rachel gazed at the skyline and felt a deep current of tranquility. Gone were the days of doubting her worth because of Andrew's critiques or enduring his backhanded compliments. She turned to Julian, who was watching her with gentle quietness. "I never thought I'd end up here," she admitted, her voice thick. "A year ago, I was still broken by the divorce. Now, everything feels possible." Julian took her hand and gently kissed her knuckles. "You deserve a partner who sees your brilliance, not someone who tears you down to boost their own ego." A small, wry smile curved his lips. "In the end, Andrew's ambition was his downfall. It has nothing to do with you." His words filled her with a warmth that dispelled any lingering insecurities. Together, they walked over to the wide window. The city stretched below, an endless tapestry of lights. Rachel rested her head on Julian's shoulder, remembering the battered woman she had been, overshadowed by Andrew's demands, made to feel less than enough. She had reclaimed her life, rediscovered her passion for architecture, and opened her heart to a man who honored her dreams instead of stifling them. On the streets, the glittering chaos of New York City pulsed, indifferent to one man's downfall or another's triumph. Yet, in that quiet, intimate moment, Rachel felt renewed, liberated from her past, and embracing a future that sparkled with possibilities. Andrew's tragedy now belonged to the tabloids, while she found herself on the cusp of a new dawn, hand in hand with a man whose quiet strength and boundless devotion she treasured more than anything. Thank you for joining us on this journey through heartbreak, scandal, and, ultimately, empowerment. Rachel's story is a testament that even when life crumbles around us, when old love turns toxic and betrayal seems inevitable, we can rise stronger and wiser. She emerged from her divorce to find true affection in the arms of a billionaire who valued her not for her bank account, but for her unbreakable spirit. Andrew's downfall was a harsh lesson in pride and misguided ambition. Yet in the end, Rachel didn't gloat or seek revenge. She simply moved on to the happiness she truly deserved. What did you think of this incredible story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please hit the like button to let us know. Share it with friends who love a good drama. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thrilling stories of love, loss, and redemption. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for watching.